Every day we have 3 prayers. Shacharit, Mincha, Arvit. Those are our 3. Shabbat, holidays, Rosh Chodesh, we have 4. We have Musaf. The word Musaf literally means added on, extra, an additional prayer. That's Musaf. Then on Yom Kippur we have 5 because we also have Ne'ilah, right? Now, because really we don't want to make this into a 8-hour class, we are going to go over very, very specific topics. Yom Kippur is a very, very happy day. And unfortunately, the Litvaks kind of ruined it and made it into a very hard and heavy day. It is a sad day. It's a day of pain and suffering, and that's not what the texts write at all. So if you read what the texts say, the Torah talks about it as a Yom Slicha Umechila, a day of forgiveness, a day that your sins are atoned for. It is a new beginning. That is how the Torah refers to it. When the Gemara talks about Yom Kippur, okay, so if you read in Masechet Chagiga, okay, so the Gemara, very, very important texts to be familiar with, but it is the second level of oral Torah being discussed. So we have written Torah, and then the written Torah goes hand in hand with oral Torah, and you can't actually learn without it. So much so that there are communities from the time of the temple, right? You have the tzdukim. My English in these translations aren't great, so I know there's a name for them that people are familiar with. I don't know what they were called, but they were the group that did not accept the oral Torah. They said, we only accept what God gave us, and it is written down. Anything that the rabbis passed, or that Moshe even passed from one generation to the next, we refuse to accept this. This is actually really that Mishnah from Pirkei Avot, Moshe kibel Torah misinai umesara liYehoshua, right? Moshe receives the Torah from Mount Sinai and passes it on. They're called Sadducees. Sadducees? Sadducees. Exactly. Thank you. I won't remember it, but thank you. So Moshe passes the Torah to Yehoshua, right? Now there's certain things that it doesn't say in the Torah, and we all know them. For example, what color are tefillin? Black. What shape are they? Square. What's written in them? There's 4 parshas, and all of us have the same ones. Doesn't say that anywhere in the Torah, right? Yet when we looked in archaeological digs in the Qumran caves by the Dead Sea, exact tefillin were found, just like how we have them, going back almost 3,000 years. How does that happen? Well, it happens because this is what the oral Torah is. Moshe Rabbeinu receives, and it says that you should have them as totafot beinenecha, as a memory between your eyes. What should be a memory between my eyes? Does this mean a black box that has 4 little scrolls in them? How do we get to these conclusions? These conclusions all come from the fact that it's actually all in the oral Torah. Now, there's a group in Israel right now, which is very fascinating to go and see, and it is not Judaism, and it's important to state it like right off the top. They claim that they've been there since the time of Yehoshua, when we came into Israel, and then they are the only remaining Jews. Archaeologically, historically, none of that matches. They are called the Shomronim. The Shomronim are right outside of Shechem, and they also adhere to this concept of we only accept the written Torah, not the oral Torah. And when we were learning in yeshiva, we were learning the halachas of Shabbat. I told my rabbi, I said, listen, we have to go to sit with them, because this will be an experience that everybody's going to remember. And we went and we sat with their Kohen Gadol, and we sat and we talked with him, and he was explaining to us about their understanding of Shabbat, right? So you eat cold food because it says you're not allowed to have a fire in your house. We heat up our food. This was actually the source of cholent, the source of kugel, all of the sources of all of traditional Jewish food that you have across all different different groups, Ashkenazic, Sephardi, Yemenite, everybody, was to prove that you're not a tzduki, right? To show that you are heating up food on Shabbat by burying it under the ground and doing it in all kinds of ways. And they say, no, we sit in the dark, right? It's like the most Polish thing ever, right? We're going to sit in the dark because it says you can't have fire, right? And they have a lot of these things. So one of them, for example, is you walk into their house and they don't have a mezuzah on the door. Because what does it say? You should write these things on the mezuzahs. We understand that the mezuzah is the side post. They understand that it is the top. And it doesn't say that it should be in a scroll. It's etched into stone on top of every doorpost. And what is it supposed to say? We decided that it's Shema according to them. What does it say for them? Whatever you want. You pick a pasuk, you like it, right? You want it to say Shema, have it say Shema. You want it to say the Ten Commandments. You want it to say burn the witches. Whatever you want. There's a lot of great psukim you can pick from, and everybody's got something else on their doorpost. So it's very important to understand that the oral Torah is necessary to even understand where we're going. Back to my very long detour to come back to this. The Gemara in Masechet Chagiga that talks about celebrations, holidays. What do? Says 2 happiest days of the year. The first day is Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is the Jewish Valentine's Day, and it is a celebration of love. The tribes, for many different reasons, a lot of it had to do with land. We're not really marrying within each other. Each tribe is marrying inside their own tribe. And then there's a terrible story in the book of Shoftim, in the book of Judges, called Pilegesh Bagiva. Really a horror story that happens. This woman is raped by multiple men, and the consequence is that the person wakes up and finds that it wasn't his wife, it's his concubine. It was defiled in such an abusive way, and he takes her, and he takes like her corpse, and he ends up sending body parts to each one of the tribes and saying, here is what the tribe of Binyamin did, and calls war against the tribe of Binyamin. 11 tribes come up and go to wipe out one of the tribes. Okay, it's a horror story from beginning to end. There is nothing pleasant about the story whatsoever. And at the end of it, the tribes stop right before they wipe out the last of the tribe. And they make a decree that no one is allowed to have any dealings with Binyamin, right? Like no one can marry them. So how do the girls from Binyamin, how will they marry? There are basically no men left from this tribe, right? Who's going to marry all of these women? They're not involved in war, right? The war is between men. What happens to them? So there's a period of time where they are really just going to die alone. And that's another extreme part of the horror story. There is a decision, because the decree was so strong that you cannot go and marry them in a proper way of like going in and paying a dowry and doing things that were common in those days and still practiced today in Africa. I have tons of fascinating dowry stories of my time over there. But they had a whole discussion, and they decide that what they're going to do is one day a year on Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, the women of Binyamin are going to go and they wear white dresses and they're dancing out in the fields, and they are there to entice the men of the other tribes to come and marry them. And this became a holiday of announcing that the tribes can marry with inside other tribes, and the tribe of Binyamin is saved. It is considered a massive holiday that people do not know and do not celebrate properly. Okay, but that is a really important thing to understand, is that's a massive day. The other day that the Gemara refers to as the happiest day of the year is Yom Kippur. And it says Yom Kippur is the biggest holiday. Unfortunately, we are commanded to fast on this holiday. So there is a mitzvah, and the Gemara refers to it as a mitzvah, to eat on the 9th day, because the 10th day of the month is Yom Kippur. So tomorrow, is the day of before Yom Kippur. It is a holiday in and of itself. And it is a mitzvah to celebrate tomorrow, the 9th of Tishrei. It's a mitzvah to celebrate it by eating. So every single thing that you eat tomorrow is a mitzvah, right? Make a bracha on it, double mitzvah, right? Everything that you are doing tomorrow, it's a mitzvah. Two different opinions. There's an opinion that understands that this is a mitzvah because we should have been celebrating Yom Kippur. We should be celebrating it. But because Hashem commanded us to fast, and we'll talk about why we're fasting, okay, then we can't fast we need to fast on that day. So we're celebrating a day early, right? And this is the Sudam of Seket. You have a big meal before the fast. And then you have the one that's there to bum you out that says, oh, you're supposed to suffer. If you eat a lot beforehand, the fasting is harder. And then it is a double suffering, right? So you always have someone who's going to bum out the room, right? But the big philosophy that comes in there is Yom Kippur is a holiday. And we should be singing and understanding it and celebrating it completely. It is a day that you get a clean slate. So there are things, I'm going to be speaking a lot from a Hasidic perspective, which means I'm bringing a lot of mysticism into basically everything that I talk about always. Okay, it goes hand in hand in mainstream Judaism and understanding it, and I think that that's a very important thing that in our time, in our generation right now that we're experiencing, there's an awakening to this spiritual side of Judaism that kind of was suppressed for a very, very long time. And this is why you'll hear actually rabbis of all ages in this time talking about a lot of these things. Yom Kippur is a happy day. It is a holiday. It is also a day of judgment. It's a day that we are forgiven. So I get a clean slate by showing up because I'm standing in front of God who is judging me, but he is also my Father. And we're going to talk about this actually quite a lot. Avinu Malkeinu. I'm standing in front of the judge who is a king, but I'm also a prince. Now, I've gone far away, but I'm making the effort to come back. You see, like there's this whole thing that's happening on Yom Kippur when we're going through the motions of what's happening over here. It's an amazing thing because my sins are forgiven. That's how the Torah refers to it. It's a day that your sins are forgiven. Now, we have a judge in the room, okay? And we're not going to ask you how judging works, but this is clearly not what we're used to, right? You don't just show up and go, hey, everything's good. Everything's fine, right? So the example that Rav Shlomo Karlibach, who I'm a very big follower of his Torahs and how he teaches, he says like this. Imagine you go to the bank. You take out a loan of $1 million. You have a year to pay that loan back. The Yom Kippur, the day that you're supposed to pay it back is coming, and you don't have the money, right? Like, let's be real, you don't have the money to pay that back. So how do you show up to Yom Kippur? Well, you should be showing up trembling because you are going to lose your house now, right? Like everything's gone. You are going to lose this one. And you go in, and when you go in, the banker tells you, he says, you know what? I see you're sincere. I see that you've come to make this change. I'll make a deal with you. And he rips up the previous bill and throws it in the garbage and says, here's a new loan of $1 million, right? Forget about the last one, right? It's crazy. It makes no sense. That's what Yom Kippur is. So what should we be doing on Yom Kippur? It says, imagine you got that deal, right? The $1 million that you were supposed to pay back got thrown out, done. And now you get a new $1 million. You'll be singing and dancing all of Yom Kippur, right? Rav Kook, who the first chief rabbi of Israel, he writes this and he says, if you understand what Yom Kippur is, you would be dancing the entire Yom Kippur because it is such a happy day. It's a day that we're celebrating because I get a new slate, and no one gets a new slate. That's not how life works. Now, there's even a crazier thing, and we'll get to that when we get to Purim, which is why Purim is a bigger day than Yom Kippur, and that is that it's v'nahafochu. That it's not only do I get a clean slate, but I get to bank all of the things that I've done that are wrong that go as a positive, my negatives go into positives, and that's a whole v'nahafochu, which has to do with an understanding of where my tshuva comes from. So for a second, I'm putting that part on hold, and we'll talk about that when we get to Purim. But for Yom Kippur, it is tshuva from yir'ah. Yir'ah is a very strange word for us because we're only familiar with it from the King James Bible translation, and he translates it into fear. Okay, where we get the word a God-fearing person, a God-fearing Jew comes from, as opposed to the words that the Torah refers to it in ira as respect, right? When it talks about respecting your parents, it talks about ira. I respect my parents not because I'm concerned they're going to kill me, right? I respect my parents because I have ira for them, because they gave me life and therefore I respect them. That is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is I'm showing up and I'm saying I'm going to make this change because of respect for God. That is as brief of an introduction for Yom Kippur and why I'm going to be dancing on Yom Kippur so I don't scare anyone, okay? I just want everybody to be on the same page. Now, Yom Kippur starts out with an iconic prayer called Kol Nidrei, and it has actually even a prayer beforehand. So let's just open up for a minute. Really all the way in the beginning, I'm skipping kaparot, just really no time to go through all of it. There's a lot of fascinating things. We have, okay, page 38, just so that you can be familiarized with this. Page 38 is called Tfilat Zakah. Tfilat Zakah, really not going to discuss it, but if you have time, it takes about half an hour to read through this. Show up before we start our services. Show up half an hour beforehand and just read Tfilat Zakah. It is such a beautiful prayer that people do not have patience to do it as part of services. So therefore, in most synagogues, it's not a main part of the service. But Tfilat Zakah goes through the literal meaning of cheshbon nefesh, right? I am calculating what have I done with my time, right? And it goes through and it says, God, you have given me all of these things, and what have I done with them? You've given me a mouth to speak good about people, and instead, what have I been putting in my mouth? I've been putting in non-kosher food. I haven't been saying blessings. I've been speaking ill of other people. You've given me eyes so that I can look and see all the beautiful things you created, and all I do is spend my entire time looking at flaws of other people, right? And it goes through all of this, and at the end of it, right, you're in the right mindset for Yom Kippur. So it is not an official part of the service, but it is something that it is worthwhile reading. Kol Nidrei. Kol Nidrei is on page 58. Al dat hamakom ve'al dat hakahal, and 58, the top line. Al dat hamakom, with the approval of God, ve'al dat hakahal, and with the approval of the community, b'yeshiva shel mala, in the Beit Din, in the yeshiva, in the judgment of the heavens, uv'yeshiva shel mata, and in the yeshiva of down here, our Beit Din, our congregation, anu matirim litpalel im havaryanim. We are giving permission to daven with the avaryanim. Okay? Avaryanim, we're going to discuss that. This is the introduction. Before we can even understand what Kol Nidrei is, the first words when we are starting services is al dat makom. I'm going to announce that we are allowing us, and the heavens are allowing us to daven with avaryanim. The literal translation of the word avaryanim means criminals, transgressors, anyone who hasn't repented, different ways of understanding, but the literal meaning is I'm allowing us to be able to pray with everyone. There's a few different questions of where this prayer comes from. I don't know if it's true, but I have heard that the source of this prayer comes from the time of the Marranos in Spain, and there was there were Jews who went and were hiding their Judaism, and while they're hiding their Judaism in public, how do you prove that you're not Jewish to all of your Christian friends? Because if you don't, you get executed. They would say, come, have some bacon, right? Eat some pork. Go and do something that is explicitly not Jewish. Prove to me that you are not still holding with your Jewish belief, right? And they would, because if not, they would be executed. And then on Yom Kippur night, they would sneak into the basements where they were holding services, because there was no one holding services in a shul. You'd get killed, right? So everything is down in the machteret, right? Everyone is hiding. And then they would come in and they would announce, right? This is a big question. Can we pray with people who are explicitly doing things to save their own skin while others are being crucified, being burnt at the stake, right? Now, there are no easy answers over here, right? But this is something that communities were asking, and I heard that this is when this prayer was written, was making it clear, you are welcome to come back and pray. We understand, you're scared, you had a hard, you weren't able to take the step of hiding like the rest of us did, right? We are allowing you to come back and congregate with us and daven with us on Yom Kippur. There is a question of, can someone who did not make the effort of doing tshuva come and show up on Yom Kippur? And this announcement is yes. Everybody is welcome. And this is not news, right? You'll go to shuls everywhere in the world, and during the year, the shul has 50% capacity, 30% capacity, 5% capacity, right? Yom Kippur, everybody's standing outside. There's not enough room for everyone, right? And this is a world phenomenon, right? I happen to think it's a really bad time to show up if you're only going to show up once a year. Don't show up for Yom Kippur, right? Like, come for something fun. This is why they only show up once. They come once. It's the entire day. It's in a language they don't understand. They go, oh, you see, this is why I don't show up, right? Come for Purim. Purim is fun. Come for Simchat Torah. That's fun, right? But if you're going to show up once, chances are you're going to end up showing for the roughest part of Judaism, and that's Yom Kippur. So we say everybody's welcome. The second thing on what avaryanim is, what does the root of the word avaryanim? Avar, right? What does the word avar mean? To cross over. Avar, in a historical context, avar means past, okay? Ever is the other side, but it comes from the same understanding, right? That's why it's what's nice about Hebrew is the root of the word helps give you a lot of context. Avaryanim, Rav Nachman from Breslov, which is a massive source of understanding Yom Kippur davenings, okay, says, what is avaryanim? Jews who are stuck in the past. We say this a few times. V'haser Satan me'ilfanenu u'me'achorenu. Remove the Satan, the evil inclination, Satan, for lack of a better word, the devil, whatever is blocking me from in front of me and from behind me. That is our prayer. Our prayer is, I would like to not to not need to deal with my evil inclination. So the first thing is from in front of me. Now that one's very clear. Whatever's tripping me, I would like it to stop tripping me, right? In the future, I don't want to keep on falling, right? That's milfanenu, in front of us. Me'achorenu, from behind us. There's two main explanations. One is from Rav Tzadok from Lublin, another big Hasidic rabbi, who talks about it and says, when you have a yetzer hara, an evil inclination to become a righteous person from now to now, right? From 0 to 100, know that it's your evil inclination and not your positive inclination, right? If you don't know, right? Like if you don't know how to walk, don't start with running. You take it step by step. He says, what happens is you say, right now, I don't eat kosher. I don't keep Shabbos. I don't do anything. Tomorrow, I'm keeping Shabbos to the highest extent. I'm eating kosher in the highest kashrut. I'm divorcing my non-Jewish partner. I'm leaving. Like people go to such an extreme. You go, 1 second, right? If you try to go from 0 to 100, what happens? Boom, you're going to fall straight on your face, right? Like you're not going anywhere. And what ends up happening is, this is Rav Tzadok's approach, is he says, the evil inclination is pushing you from behind and saying, go. You want to be good? Be Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, run, right? So what happens? You try it for a second and you go, it's impossible. It's impossible to be Jewish. Done. I'm finished, right? Like you go from 0 to 100 and from 100 right back to 0, right? And it is the Baal Tshuva complex, the convert complex. It's people who go too fast, right? Too far, too fast, and then go, whoop, I'm going all the way back, right? No, step by step. Understanding that the Jewish mindset is very much that motion of I'm going step by step. I'm not running. It's a process. We have till 120 Be'ezrat Hashem in good health that we can work on ourselves. Everybody's got their own time, but we can work on ourselves and keep on trying, right? No one's expecting you to be perfect tomorrow, okay? And another very, very important thing, which is, this is another Hasidic rabbi, Zusha from Annapolis, who says, when I get up to heaven, no one will ask me, Zusha, why weren't you Moshe Rabbeinu? They will ask me, Zusha, why weren't you Zusha, right? When we get up to heaven, they will ask, why weren't you, right? Why didn't you do the best that you could? Because you tried to skip rungs, because you tried to be something that you're not. Slowly, you'll get there. It's fine. You'll get there in your own time, in your own pace, in your own journey. Rav Nachman says the other one, type of avaryanim, the ones who are stuck in the past, says this is the way worse one. He says the satan me'achorenu, the evil inclination that's from behind us, isn't pushing us forward. He's holding us back, and he says, listen, we both know where you were last night. We both know where you've been since you were born. I've been with you since you were born, right? We've been through this whole journey together. You are not kidding anyone. And that is the biggest trap, because it basically tells you, here's who you are. Society has already told you who you are. Do not try to change. I was at-risk youth. I was the most troublemaking person in my community. Okay, and I've been a rabbi now for 5 years in Kenya, and now I'm here, right? The world changes. Things move, right? When I told my parents that I was becoming a rabbi, they laughed for half an hour straight, okay? Because that was never in the cards at all, right? I wasn't always going in the religious path. I wasn't always going in the just behave like a mensch path. I had my journey. Right? But everybody has that in their own way, in their own time. And being able to change. And it's not easy, because I have people who remind me who I was. Often, I'll go to places and people will go, oh, I remember when you were a teenager. I'm like, thank you very much, right? Like, that's not helpful, right? It's not helpful to remember when you were a teenager. It's a part of you. You can't really ignore it. Okay, you can't really ignore it, nor can you forget it, right? But it is a part of who you are, right? So Rav Nachman says the Jews who are stuck in the past, even then we forgive and allow them to come daven with us. That gift of shichecha, of forgetting. He says the world is convinced that forgetfulness is a terrible thing. It is a curse of the mind that we forget things when we get older and we can't remember everything. He says it's the biggest blessing you can have. He says it lets you grow. Being able to forget things is the ability to move on. Otherwise, you keep on getting stuck in the past. And being able to move and grow. So Kol Nidrei is starting with, I am allowing myself to move on. I literally finished this year. This year was not great. I'm leaving it behind, right? Doesn't mean I forgot what happened. Doesn't mean that I'm okay with everything that I've been through, that others been through. But it means I am making a decision now that this year I'm a different person. Doing tshuva, changing who you are, there's different philosophies on that. The Rambam, Maimonides, says it is easier to change one it's easier to do all 613 mitzvahs than to change one aspect of your personality. It's an approach, right? Think if you're an angry person, think how hard it is to say, I'm not an angry person, right? No, it's a part of my DNA, right? Is it a part of your DNA? Is it something you're just like accustomed to? Psychology tells us something different, right? And tells us that we're creatures of habit and that we basically just keep on saying, well, I acted this way yesterday, so I'll probably act like this tomorrow, and that's why I'll act like this right now. Rav Nachman has, again, a different approach to this and says, every morning you wake up, you can say, today I'm different. Today I'm a different person. I am deciding that I would like to be a different person. And there are psychological approaches to that extent as well, that say, you would like to make a change, you could. I have seen this transformation with my own eyes, with a cousin of mine who was the biggest troublemaker and very much on the path to criminal life and such. And I was at his house a few years back, and I saw that he was just like doing everything with a massive smile on his face. He was just getting everything running around. And I asked him, I said, what was the switch for you? And he said, well, I went to yeshiva right before I went into the army, and they asked for a volunteer. And I realized no one here knows me, right? I have a tag, right? Everybody knows me back home that I'm a troublemaker. But no one here knows me. I'm brand new. It's our first day. And they asked for a volunteer to help clean up and do dishes. And I hate doing dishes. But no one else was raising their hand. So I raised my hand. And everyone's like, wow, good for you. I said, you know what? I'm going to do the dishes. So he went and did the dishes. He says, already doing the dishes. I may as well smile. May as well enjoy myself. So he enjoyed himself. The next day, they asked for a volunteer, and he's like, you know what? I guess I'm a guy who just volunteers. And he raised his hand and said, I'll do it. And he set the table and says, I'm just the guy who volunteers. And if I'm already volunteering, I may as well do it with a smile. And he says, and from that day on, he's never stopped in anything. Okay? Helped me move the house. It was like, there was no question. I just said, I need to move a house. I'll be there, right? Like, it was so obvious to him he's helping. And that changed in a moment. He woke up and said, I can change. I can be a new person. And it's sometimes that easy. Not always. Sometimes. Two approaches. Putting them out there. So Kol Nidrei. Kol Nidrei is a parallel tefillah to what we actually said on the evening of Rosh Hashanah, which was Hatarat Nedarim. Hatarat Nedarim, annulling all of our vows. I want to come in with a clean slate. So, as a congregation, we are starting and saying, Kol Nidrei, all of the vows and the promises and commitments and everything that I said that I was going to do, right? New Year's resolutions that didn't pan out on the second day of the year, right? I should make these vows. I should try to do them. I should try to be a better person. But if I didn't manage, if I fell short of what I promised to do, don't hold it against me. Because I would like to come in with a clean slate to God. Because that's Yom Kippur. I would like to come in with a clean slate. This does not annul vows between people, which means if you have a commitment to someone, this does not annul. If you owe someone money, you still have to pay them, right? There was an anti-Semitic view on this prayer that Jews basically say, I promise, I promise, I promise, and then they come on Yom Kippur and just say, I'm annulling all my promises, right? That's not what this is. This is between me and God. And anything that I did not manage to upkeep, that is what we're doing. That is Kol Nidrei. Before Yom Kippur, keep in mind, you still have to apologize to friends, make amends. And apologizing means I'm coming and I'm saying, I'm sorry for what I've done. If they are not forgiving you, you have to make it up to them, right? You have to do something and say, what can I do to make it up to show you that I'm sorry? Now, I'm going to use this tshuva as an understanding also for people, but also for God. When I'm coming back to God, right? When I'm doing tshuva, that's what repentance is. I'm repeating what I said last time on Rosh Hashanah, right? On the Rosh Hashanah class. It's not that I'm in a place where I say, I feel bad for eating a cheeseburger, right? It was good and I enjoyed it. What am I saying I'm sorry for? I'm sorry that I hurt you, right? Because we're very rarely sorry for the actions that we are doing. But when we feel bad, it's because I feel bad that I hurt you, right? And I don't want to hurt you. And even if I've done it more than once, that's not the relationship that I want. And I'm sorry, this cheeseburger is really good, right? So I'm sorry, but I want to do better because I want our relationship to be in a good place. That is the tshuva. So if I hurt someone, right, it doesn't really help to say, I'm sorry I hurt you, right? I'm sorry I did this. You need to understand, you say, I'm sorry that I hurt you, right? It's not what I did. It's that I did it to you, right? And that's where I'm coming to ask forgiveness for. Any questions up until now? Kol Nidrei, Yom Kippur? No? Okay. For anyone in the video, there's a lot of people in the room. They're just very quiet. Okay, good. At least you can hear them laugh. Now, with the next thing that we'll see that is big and out there is on page 68. On page 68, we have Shema, and we're familiar with the Shema, and we will do an in-depth class on the Sidur and Tefillot after the Chagim, and we'll get into it. But page 68, there is something that is different about this Shema. What does it say? On the bottom? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, and then aloud. So the whole year we say Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, undertoned, right? And the reason for the undertone comes from two different places, two different midrashim that talk about this. The first one is Yaakov is on his deathbed. Yaakov, also known as Israel, his other name, Israel, and he is on his deathbed. And while he's on his deathbed, the tribes are standing around, and he wants to tell them what's about to happen. He has a prophecy of understanding they are going to be enslaved, but they are also going to be redeemed from there. And it says he comes to tell them, and it disappears from him. So he is concerned, what if the tribes are not worthy? What if one of the tribes there doesn't believe in God, right? They've already sold one of their brothers. We know that they haven't always been the best to each other. what if they are not worthy and the line ends with him? What if he made a mistake? Or what if he didn't make a mistake when he picked Yosef and he blessed Yosef's children? Maybe it should be Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef, Menashe, and Ephraim. Those are the tribes of Israel, Menashe and Ephraim. Who knows, right? Like maybe that is the real lineage, and Reuven, Shimon, Levi, they're all troublemakers. We can't trust them, right? So the children of Israel, of Yaakov, tell him, Shema Yisrael, listen, our father Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. God is the God that you believe in. The one God is our God. And he says, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto L'olam V'ed. Blessed is his name forever and ever. But because it is not explicit, then you can't add it in as a part of the normal prayer, and therefore it is said quietly. That is the first reason for that. It doesn't explain why we say it loudly on Yom Kippur. The second midrash does explain it. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he spends 40 days and 40 nights up in the heavens to receive the Torah, over there he hears the angels pray. We have some of these angels' prayers. We say them all the time. Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzevaot, Baruch Kevod Hashem Imkomo. But this prayer is Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto L'olam Va'ed. He steals it. He brings it down. And the Midrash says, it's like a worker working in the king's palace, in the queen's palace. And he steals the queen's necklace and he brings it back to his wife. And he says, you can wear it, but only inside the house, right? It's the queen's necklace. It doesn't really belong to us, but in the house. So throughout the year, we whisper it. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto L'olam Va'ed. But on Yom Kippur, we are angels, right? We wear white. We are not eating. We are not drinking. There are customs that you do not sleep on Yom Kippur, at least during the day, right? Not for the whole 25 hours, although there are some people who do that as well, but that you shouldn't be sleeping on the day of Yom Kippur because we are like angels, right? So on the day that we are like angels, we get to use the angels' language. So that is the Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto. All right? We will talk about it more when we get to the class on Shema. Trying to decide which ones. I have like a whole bunch of things, but I don't want the class to take too long. Okay. Ashamnu Bagadnu. I'll just give you guys the three things that we're going to talk about. Ashamnu Bagadnu, very briefly. Yud Gimel Midot Rachamim, because it's like the core of the davening. Hashem El Rachum V'Chanun. We'll talk about that. And then the avoda that we're also going to talk about during services. I'm going to try to also stop the chazan on Musaf and explain what we're doing as we're going through, but I have pictures and it's going to make it so much easier. So very, very briefly, because I don't want to miss this. Ashamnu Bagadnu. We're standing in front of God and we say, Ashamnu Bagadnu Gazalnu. What's the tune? What tune do you guys do over here? Ay 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 la 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 Ashamnu Bagadnu Gazalnu Dibarnu Dafi Dili la 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 la. Right? Is it a happy tune? A sad tune? Huh? Oh my gosh, then we're doing it wrong. Okay, we're gonna sing it a lot. Okay, okay, it's an extremely happy tune. Okay, like but the words do not match the tune. Okay, or as the story about the white shul in New York was how was the chazan on Yom Kippur? I wasn't able to make it for services. Says the chazan was great, had a beautiful voice. His tunes didn't always match the words. When he got to the 4 mitas of Beitin, he goes skila srifa hereg v'chen, like maybe match the tune to the words, right? Like singing how people are dying isn't always like very cheerful, right? But when we get to Ashamnu Bagadnu, right, the tune is upbeat in like from a musical perspective, it's an upbeat tune. right? And you're going, we sinned, we cheated, we stole, right? We lied. And you go, okay, so on one hand, I'm hitting myself for some sort of the heart took over the mind, right? The heart is leading the neshama in the wrong direction. So sort of giving it some sort of, like a little hit to put it back into place. That's one. On the other hand, we're excited about this. Now, who is stupid enough to plead guilty? Who is stupid enough to show up in front of a judge and say, I did it. I did all of it, right? And I'm going to do it again next year. It's just over and over again. Ashamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu. We're repeating this over and over. If I'm standing in front of a judge, sometimes I'm sitting in front of a judge, okay? But if I'm standing in front of a judge, I'm going to say, here's all of my good qualities. Here's what I've done this year. You know what? I've davened, I kept Shabbat, I ate kosher food, I did all of these great things. Where in the entire Machzor does it say anything good that we've done? It's not mentioned, but I'm in judgment. Why am I not saying anything good? So, Rav Nachman from Breslov, yet again, brings a very positive spin on this. He says, here is all the positive stuff. I stole, I lied, I cheated, I did all of these things, right? Ashamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu. He says, this is the positive things. Why are they the positive things? Because I can't lie to God. God knows what I've done, right? So I get to say, I stole, but I am not a thief. This is the core definition of what Yom Kippur is according to Rav Nachman, saying, I can't lie that I didn't do it. I can't come and say, I did not steal. I stole. Did I rob a bank? No, I did not rob a bank this year. Was I completely honest with my taxes? Right? Did I always tell the complete truth? There are things that you may not even be aware that fall into the category of the things that we say. For example, if you walk into a store and ask for the price of something without any intention of buying, you are stealing. You are stealing the person's mind. You are telling them you are going to make a sale, and then you leave without buying anything. In a market, you're allowed to do it. There's very clear halachas about this. In a market where bargaining and things go on, you are allowed to do that. But walking into a store just so I can compare prices is absolutely stealing. I'm getting someone's hopes up that works off of commission. They are wasting time talking to me. We don't refer to it. I woke someone up before their alarm clock. I stole sleep from them, right? Are we completely, right, innocent in this completely, right? Have we not stolen anything this year? No, we did, right? However, are we thieves? The definition of what our society is teaching us in a very unhealthy way is we are defined by our worst action we've ever committed. And it's not fair, nor is it true. Let's give an example. A person, 40 years old, amazing citizen, does everything right. He sees an injustice happening. His child is being abused. He takes out a gun, shoots the person who is abusing his child, right? He goes to jail now for killing. I don't know the terminology. Manslaughter, killing, murder one, okay? He killed someone. He knew what he was doing. He did it. He goes to jail. He spends the next 25 years in jail. At 65, he leaves jail. He was a perfect citizen. He had a 15-second thing that he did that you can argue, is it justifiable, not justifiable? You see your child being abused in a certain way, to go all means necessary. He will be marked a murderer forever. You have children, youth, teenagers who do things, and they will have that tag on them forever. I don't want to be defined by who I was as a teenager, right? I imagine most people don't, right? If I ask every single person, what is the worst thing you ever committed? The worst thing you've ever done, right? And then from now on, we will only refer to you by your worst crime that you've ever done. That one action could have been a minute, could have been a second, could have been a year that you were off your game. Doesn't matter. That is your defining characteristic now, right? I'm willing to bet we wouldn't want to live in a society like that. Yet we kind of do. We have this kind of mindset, right? And we are coming and trying to change that. The Jewish mindset, or the Hasidic mindset for this matter, is looking at things and saying, I'm going to give you a chance, right? I'm going to give you a chance to say, I've done wrong. You have to plead guilty because you are, right? You've done it. You can't deny it. But you get to say, this isn't who I am. I've done something wrong. I cannot deny it. That's not who I am. Remember, right? I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, right? Like, this is who I am. Did I do bad things? 100%. Is my slate clean? No, not even close, right? But I get to stand in front of God and saying, this is not me, right? I've done something wrong. This is not me. Do not judge me on this one action. That is Rav Nachman's version of, it is a beautiful, happy song with something, with all of the positive things of, yes, I did it, but that's not who I am.